Hey guys, it's me, Juan, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'll be talking to you guys about my middle school experience. So first of all, this shirt, shout out to my aunt. My aunt got it from me. She works at FIU. Shout out to the best janitor in all of FIU. She's awesome. I love her. But anyway, I got a little bit off topic right there. So for today's video, I'll be talking to you guys about my middle school experience. So for middle school, I attended Howard D. Macmillan Middle School. Probably, I don't know about now, probably at the time, the worst ran public Miami middle school ever. And the reason why I say this is because, like, not only it was a terrible experience, but obviously, like, oh, yeah, some of you guys in who knows, maybe in the comments would be like, oh, Juan, what do you expect? It's middle school, blah, 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 blah. But not only that, it's a public middle school. Also, the fact that I remember when my mom would try to pick me up early from school, and when they would finally call me down through the PA system, like, oh, Juan's gonna get dismissed early or whatnot. So I remember that, like, she would even tell me, it's like, oh, I've been here for an hour and waiting, and they would make up these stories, or they would just say, it's like, oh, you know that I remember there was one case that my mom tried to pick me up early from school, and one of the secretaries were telling her, you know that a kid got kidnapped, and making up a bunch of stuff just so I wouldn't leave school early, which I think is totally wrong, because it's like, if a kid misses school or has to leave early or not, that's the kid's problem. It's the kid is the student. You're not the student. Like, why do you care? But anyway, so my middle school experience was that I went to Howard D. Macmillan Middle School. How the school looked like is that the main building, it basically looked like a jail because it was so closed, and like the building was so old, and even to this day it still looks like that because it's still the same building. The main building still there. Like, it's like all closed up, and it would get scary at times in the sense that when the lights would go out, it would be pitch black. So I remember this was before this was in like the early days of the iPhone. I remember sixth grade. I didn't even have an iPhone. Had a Sidekick, um, and I remember when my mom even got me a flashlight because I had a family member. I remember who went there before I did that she would carry around a flashlight because sometimes the lights would go out, and when it would go out, you wouldn't see anything because it was just pitch black, because the fact that the school is so closed up. And the worst part is that in the main building of the school, because there's two buildings, they're both closed, but like there's the new building in the back that they call it the annex building, which you can open up the windows or whatnot, but like it isn't really air ventilated like how my elementary school and my high school is, that when you would open a door, you would just feel the breeze of natural wildlife air or whatnot. Like, it just wasn't like that. So at least in the newer building in the back, you were able to like open the door, not the doors, the windows. But in the old one, forget it. In the old building, not every classroom had a window. And also the worst part is that if it did have a window, it was just like it was just like a piece of glass, and you weren't even able to see what was outside. Only in one classroom I was able to see, like, oh, the front of the school, and basically that's it. So the point is that my middle school experience, it was completely ugly. like like I like I was manipulated a lot, and unfortunately, like, I did know some close people in my life at the time that did end up backstabbing me, and they did like and they were just like weird. And it was also a tough time for me because that's when one of my family members started to get sick, and then I had one that passed away throughout the time I was there, so it was hella rough. And it was an uncle of mine, and the worst part in my shoes is that that uncle of mine, like, I loved him like a second dad. He was basically a second dad to me. And and the fact that just processing through my brain, like, oh, I'm never gonna see my uncle again, and I'm never gonna see his smile, I'm never gonna see his laugh, I'm not gonna be able to hear his laugh, I'm not even gonna be able to at least hear his voice, and have him physically next to me. That was so hard for me to swallow, but I ended up, obviously, with time, end up swallowing it. But with time, unfortunately, like, when you have a loved one that passed, they just disappear, and they disappear more, but they live in with you. So so I went through that throughout my middle school times. And, like, something really interesting, like, not really, like, I really oh wait, the only really interesting thing, but it was negative, unfortunately, was that I did have a a teacher. I'm not gonna say its name. I did have a teacher who was so nice to me in one school year, and then the next school year when I had it, um it unfortunately, I'm saying it because I don't even want to reveal the gender, because that's how irrelevant that human being is. I remember that it would ended up being friends with a person who I was friends with that backstabbed me. And and I remember that friend of mine, I'm gonna call him L. So L, I remember, I was big friends with L, and I knew L from elementary school. And uh, and then I remember, like, he would randomly, like, laugh or whatnot, but at the same time, for me, it was always so hard to tell if someone was laughing with me or laughing at me. I don't know, I was just weird. So I remember that L was like, was telling my teacher all these things. And then that same teacher, the it teacher, I remember one day, it told me to get out of to do some errand. And apparently, I remember from one of those classmates of mine, it told me right after class ended that it started talking a bunch of garbage about me. And and I just couldn't have it. It was hard for me to swallow. I was like so confused, like, why does the teacher do that, and why does the teacher care what a student does? It's like get a life. It's Yeah. But anyway, so that's over, thank God. Like, I did become way more selective through that experience, absolutely. And and it and, and it was pretty tough to have all of those things that collided onto me. So I don't really have much more to tell you guys, but that's it from my story. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And see you till next time. Bye.